Retail Management, Masters of Commerce, 4th semester, Mangalore University, Session 10. Strategic Retail Planning. In this session, you're going to learn about the strategic retail planning process. Learning objective to know the strategic retail planning process. Session outcome the students will be able to understand about the different stages of retail planning process. Strategic retail planning process. It is a set of steps a retailer goes through to develop a strategy and plan. It describes how retailers select target market segments, determine the appropriate retail format, and build sustainable competitive advantage. As indicated, it is always necessary to go through the entire process each time a strategy and plan are developed. For instance, a retailer could evaluate its performance and go directly to step 2 to conduct a situation audit. The planning process can be used to formulate the strategic plans at different levels within the retail corporation. For example, the corporate strategic plan of Tesco indicates how to allocate resources across the corporation's various divisions such as Tesco, Tesco Extra, Tesco Express, Tesco Metro, Tesco Home Plus, and One Stop. Each division in turn develops its own strategic plan. So, these are some of the stages in the strategic retail planning process. The first step is defining the business mission. Second, conduct a situation audit like the market attractiveness analysis, competitor analysis, and self analysis. Third, identify the strategic opportunities. Fourth, evaluate the strategic alternatives. Fifth, establish specific objectives and allocate resources. Sixth, develop a retail mix to implement strategy. Seventh, evaluate the performance and make adjustments. The first step in the strategic retail market process is the defining the business mission. The first step in the strategic retail planning process is to define the business mission. The mission statement is a broad description of a retailer's objectives and the scope of activities it plans to undertake. While the principal of objective of a publicly held firm is to maximize its stockholders' wealth, firms firms are concerned about their impact on society. The mission statement defines the general nature of the target segments and retail formats on which the firm will focus. For example, the mission statement of an office supply category specialist: serve the customer, build value for shareholders, and create opportunities for associates. It's too broad, it fails to provide the sense of strategic direction. In developing the mission statement, managers need to answer the five questions: what business are we in? What should our business be in future? Who are our customers? What are our capabilities? What do we want to accomplish? The mission statement defines the retailer's objectives and the scope of activities it plans to undertake. The second step is to conduct a situation audit. Before that, this is a mission statement of DMart. So the tagline of DMart is Mehnat Hamari Bachat Aapki. The mission statement of DMart is to be the lowest priced retailer in the area of operation, city, or the region, in that particular area or where it is being located. So they are going to specify that particular operation and the city as well as the region. So the vision of DMart, even though it is not covered, it tells that it is a continuous endeavor to investigate, identify, and make available new product categories for customers every day, use and at the best values than anybody else. The second process is to conduct a situation audit. After developing a mission statement and setting objectives, the next step in the strategic planning process is to conduct a situation audit, an analysis of the opportunities and threats in the retail environment and the strengths and weaknesses of the retail business relative to its competitors. The elements in the situation analysis are the market factors, the competitive factors, the environmental factors, and the analysis of the strengths and weaknesses. So, now let us study one by one these elements of the situation audit in detail. The first is the market factors. Some critical factors related to consumers and their buying patterns are the target market size and growth, sales cyclicality, and seasonality. Market size, typically measured in retail sales dollars, is important because it indicates a retailer's opportunity to generate revenues to cover its investment. Growing markets are typically more attractive than mature or declining markets. For example, retail markets for limited assortment extreme value retailers are growing faster than those for the department stores. Typically, the return on investment may be higher in growing markets because competition is less intense than in mature markets. Because new customers are just beginning to patronize stores in growing markets, they may not have developed strong store loyalties and thus might be easier to attract to new retail offerings. Firms are often interested in minimizing the business cycle's impact on their sales. Thus, the retail markets are for merchandise that is affected by economic conditions are less attractive than retail markets that are less affected by economic conditions. In general, the markets with highly seasonal sales are unattractive because of lot of resources are needed to accommodate the peak season and the resources go underutilized the rest of the year. Retailers can take steps to reduce the seasonality. To conduct an analysis of the market factors, sorry, the second is the competitive factors. The nature of the competition in retail markets is affected by barriers to entry, the bargaining power of vendors, and the competitive rivalry. Retail markets are more attractive when competitive entry is costly. Barriers to entry are the conditions in a retail market that makes it difficult for other firms to the other the other firms to enter the market. Some of these conditions are scale economies, customer loyalty, and the availability of great locations. The scale economies. Scale economies are the cost advantages due to the retailer size. Markets dominated by large competitors with the scale economies are typically unattractive because the dominant firms have sustainable cost advantages. For example, an entrepreneur would view the drugstore market as unattractive because it is dominated by the other large firms. These firms have considerable cost advantages over an entrepreneur because they have significant bargaining power over suppliers and can buy merchandise at lower prices. They have the resources to invest in the latest technology and can spread the fixed cost of such investments across more outlets. Finally, the availability of locations may impede the competitive entry. Entry barriers are a double edged sword. A retail market with high entry barriers is very attractive for retailers presently competing in that market because those barriers limit competition. However, markets with high entry barriers are unattractive for retailers not already in the market. Another competitive factor is the bargaining power of the vendors. Markets are less attractive when only a few vendors control the merchandise sold in the market. In such situations, vendors have the opportunity to dictate prices and other terms, reducing the retailer's profits. For example, The market for retail fashionable cosmetics is less attractive because of the other two's competitive suppliers. The final competitive factor is the level of competitive rivalry in the retail market. The competitive rivalry is the frequency and intensity of reactions to actions undertaken by the competitors. When rivalry is high, price wars erupt, employee raids occur, advertising and promotion expenses increase, and profit potential falls. Conditions that may lead to intense rivalry include a large number of competitors that are all about the same size, slow growth, high fixed cost, and a lack of perceived differences between the competing retailers. The third factor is the environmental factor. Environmental factors that can affect the market attractiveness include technological, economic, regulatory, and the social changes. When a retail market is going through significant changes in technology, existing competitors are vulnerable to new entrants that are skilled at using the new technology. Many traditional store based retailers were slow to develop their multi channel internet strategies fully. For instance, in the 1990s, few retailers offered the ability for customers to purchase over the internet and return the merchandise to a store. Today, however, the larger multi-channel retailers set the standards for services provided through technology. Some retailers may be more affected by the economic conditions than others. During tough economic times, retailers that offer a perceived high value offering, such as discount, off price, warehouse clubs, and extreme value retailers, are in a much better position than retailers specializing in luxury goods, such as jewelry stores, designer apparel, specialty stores, and gourmet and other organic grocers. In a bid to push economic reforms through the next phase, the Indian government in November 2011 took a policy decision to allow 51% FDI in multi brand retail. However, shortly thereafter, the government had to hold back its decision due to the intense opposition by political parties. This development has negatively impacted the attractiveness of the Indian retail market. Earlier, many local governments have tried to block the entry of large domestic retailers. For example, in Uttar Pradesh, following large scale protests from the unorganized retailers, the state government ordered the closure of Reliance Fresh stores in Varanasi and Lucknow. Reliance had to put a stop on its proposed Rs 9,000 crore investment plan for UP. The company also shut down its 20 outlets in Ghaziabad and Noida. Reliance has decided to slow down its expansion plans in the states like Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Bihar, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, Kerala, and West Bengal, where the ruling parties are hostile to the growth of organized retail or where the local retailers and activists are opposed to the entry of big firms in the retail business. Finally, trends in demographics, lifestyle, attitudes, and personal values affect the retail markets attractiveness. Apple specializes in developing aesthetically designed products in areas of popular technology. Its stores are mimic the high-tech design of its products and are known to have the Apple style. The products are appealing to aficionados of technology as well as to non-technological customers. Apple stores are simple to navigate and friendly, and the architecture is similar to that of a fashion or a luxury store. Retailers need to answer three questions about each environmental factor. First, what new developments or challenge changes might occur, such as new technologies and regulations, or different social factors and economic conditions? Second, what is the likelihood that these environmental changes will occur? What key factors affect whether these changes will occur? Third, how will these changes affect each retail market, the firm, and its competitors? The fourth the fourth element is the strength and the weaknesses analysis. The most critical aspect of the situation audit is for a retailer to determine its unique capabilities in terms of its strengths and weaknesses relative to the competition. A strengths and weaknesses analysis indicates how well the business can seize opportunities and avoid harm from the threats in the environment. The third step is identify the strategic opportunities. So, after completing the situation audit, the next step is to identify the opportunities for increasing the retail sales. Any firm presently competes in retailing using a specialty store or any other format according to the situation or according to the location where they are operating. The strategic alternatives are also considered for defining the terms of the growth of opportunities in their particular business, and they are involved in redefining their mission. Step 4 is to evaluate the strategic opportunities. The fourth step in strategic planning process is to evaluate the opportunities that have been identified in the situation audit. The evaluation determines the retailer's potential to establish a sustainable competitive advantage and reap long term profits from the opportunities being evaluated. Thus, a retailer must focus on opportunities that utilize its strengths and its competitive advantage. Both the market attractiveness and the strengths or weaknesses of the retailer need to be considered in evaluating the strategic opportunities. The greatest investment should be made in market opportunities for which the retailer has a strong competitive position. The fifth step is establish specific objectives and allocate the resources. After evaluating the strategic investment opportunities, the next step in the strategic planning process is to establish a specific objective for each opportunity. The retailer's overall objective is included in the mission statement. The specific objectives are the goals against which progress toward the overall objectives can be measured. Thus, these specific objectives have three components. First, the performance sought, including a numerical index against which progress may be measured. Second, a time frame within which the goal is to be achieved. Third, the level of investment needed to achieve the objective. Typically, the performance levels are financial criteria such as return on investment, sales, or profits. The sixth step is to develop a retail mix to implement the strategy. The sixth step in the planning process is to develop a retail mix for each opportunity in which an investment will be made and control and evaluate the performance. Seventh and the last step is evaluate the performance and make adjustments. The final step in the planning process is to evaluate the results of the strategy and implementation program. If the retailer is meeting or exceeding its objectives, changes aren't needed. But if the retailer fails to meet its objectives, reanalysis is required. Typically, this reanalysis starts with reviewing the implementation programs, but it may indicate that the strategy needs to be reconsidered. This conclusion would result in starting a new planning process, including a new situation audit. Strategic planning in the real world. After the business mission is defined, the situation audit is performed. Strategic opportunities are identified, alternatives are evaluated, objectives are set, resources are allocated, the implementation plan is developed, and finally the performance is evaluated and adjustments are made. But actual planning process have interactions among the steps. For example, the situation audit may uncover a logical alternative for the firm to consider, even though this alternative isn't included in the mission statement. Thus, the mission statement may need to be reformulated. The development of the implementation plan might reveal that the resources allocated to a particular opportunity are insufficient to achieve the objective. In that case, the objective would need to be changed, the resources would need to be increased, or the retailer might consider not investing in the opportunity at all. Thank you.